The crux of the issue here is that when you ask for right to repair, they'll say that that's a government interference in the free market, so why don't you just make your own parts? But then when you actually go and make your own parts, they'll use the government interference in the free market via the patent system to stop you from being able to import what you actually created. So, there's no winning here. Is ITC monthly wrap-up. This is the International Trade Commission. There are 6 complaints that were filed, Section 337 complaints. Samsung going against a bunch of different people. Samsung Display Company filed a complaint against Mobile-Centrics, Captain Mobile Parts, DFW Imports, Cell Phone and Parts, Electronics Universe, E-Tech Parts, Gadget Fix, Group Vertical, Injured Gadgets, LC Tech International, SEG Mobile, Mentger, Mobile Defenders, Parts for Sales, Phone LCD Parts, LLC, Sourcely Plus, Wholesale Gadget Parts, and the TLDR of this is it seems that what Samsung is looking to do is block people from being able to import aftermarket screens. To be clear, when we say aftermarket, we're not talking about somebody pretending that something like has a Samsung logo on it or is a Samsung part when it is not. We are talking about parts that are very clearly branded as refurbished, aftermarket, or non-original for a mobile device. If you have a phone that you bought for $1,000 and after a few years it's only worth $200 in the used market, it makes no sense for you to pay $250 to $300 for an OEM screen to a $200 phone. So what a lot of people will do is they'll say, okay, my phone is only worth $150 or $200 on the used market. I'll buy a $40 or $50 knockoff screen because that's the only way that makes it worthwhile to fix it. And what Samsung looks to be looking to do is block people from being able to do that at all. Now, this is a big problem even if you're somebody who is actually okay with OEM screens for 2 reasons. The first is that they are not really only complaining about screens that are aftermarket for Samsung. They include in this complaint, to my knowledge, from just my skimming of it, refurbished iPhone screens. So a refurbished iPhone screen means that somebody took an iPhone screen, literally the original LCD. The glass was the only thing cracked. They refurbished the front glass that was cracked with a new piece of glass, and you still have the original LCD. That's a refurbished screen, or you still have the original AMOLED. LCD is just a form of habit. So you still have the original. That would be blocked from being imported. But above all, how do you know the difference? Like when you're talking about, this is something I talked about in an old video when we were talking about the batteries that I use. And as is usual, when I'm responding to people who were talking about this, they deleted all of their posts on Reddit. I'll leave a link to this down below. As you can see, every single time I respond to somebody who makes these types of claims, they delete their posts entirely and their account because they're cowards. But my point here is customs is 2 ways they can do their job. Behind door number 1, they can become fully educated in how to tell counterfeit from original or aftermarket. Does he use an Atmel controller or Texas Instruments controller on the BMS? They could figure out what the chemical makeup is of the oleophobic coating on the screen. Behind door number 2, they can just take a look at a list of vendors, cross-reference it with every import. If it has an Apple logo or it's not in the approved vendors list, assume it's counterfeit and toss it in the bin. So if Samsung succeeds with what they're doing here, there is a very damn good chance that not only is customs not going to allow the importing aftermarket screens, they may not be able to allow the importing of just about anything. Because again, I'm not trying to insult customs here. It's just they have so many different items they have to look at. Like, how are they going to tell the difference between a refurbished OEM and an aftermarket? Like, that's not going to happen. They're going to see this box is going to phone LCD parts. This box is going to Injured Gadgets. This box is going to Mobile-Centrics. And they're going to say, just, they get nothing. This would result in the entire mobile repair industry going dead. Unauthorized disclosure of such information could cause substantial harm to the competitive position of complainant. Yes, so probably you should stop trying to destroy the independent repair industry, you fucks. But anyway, continuing. This could cause substantial harm to the competitive position of the complainant. You're trying to cause substantial harm to the competitive position of our entire industry, so I don't exactly have much sympathy for you there, Samsung. Complainant seeks a general exclusion barring importation of certain active matrix organic light-emitting diode display panels and modules that are used in replacement displays and components thereof that infringe on one or more claims of the asserted patents as defined in the complaint, and or that are sold by Mobile-Centrics, Mobile Defenders, Injured Gadgets, Group Vertical, Electronics Universe, Fix Easy, Repairs Universe, LC Tech International, Sourcely Plus, E-Tech Parts, Parts for Sales, Wholesale Gadget Parts, Captain Mobile Parts, DFW Imports, Phone LCD Parts, Mentgor, and Gadget Fix. So it's not like they're going after one person. This is an arrow into the heart of the entire repair industry. This is like 99% of the people that are selling parts in the United States, and they are trying to stop all of them from being able to import. As detailed herein, issuance of the relief requested will not adversely impact the public health, safety, or welfare conditions in the United States, competitive conditions in the United States economy. Okay, see, this part over here is bullshit. You're essentially trying to stop people from importing aftermarket screens, which means that, because think about it. If you have a phone that you bought for $1,000, 3 years later, it's worth $200. It breaks. The manufacturer sells a $250 screen for your $200 phone, or there's an aftermarket screen that's not like 99% as good as the original, but you can get it for $40. Which one do you think is going to cause somebody to decide to fix the phone versus replace it or just buy a new one? This 100% affects competitive conditions in the United States economy. If people cannot economically fix what they already own, they are less likely to fix what they already own, which means they get more money. The consumer should have the option. Do I want to buy the original from the manufacturer? Do I want to buy an aftermarket part that may not have the branding of the manufacturer, but is cheaper? This is very, very important when you consider the fact that like the entire way the repair industry works is people spending less money to fix it than it would cost to buy another one. And barring the importation of unauthorized displays as you uses replacement parts that are lower quality copies of complainants' patented products. Barring the importation of unauthorized displays. Okay, so just because it's not authorized by the manufacturer, why does that mean that you should not be able to get it? As the Commission has stated, the public interest favors the protection of U.S. intellectual property rights by excluding infringing imports. I don't think the public interest is that the manufacturer is the only one that can sell a screen to their own device. They're not complaining that they used our logo on a part that was not made by us. They're complaining that the part exists at all. You have to understand the distinction here. Again, they're not saying, Samsung is not saying, you know, Mobile Centrics put a Samsung logo on a part Samsung did not make. They're saying Mobile Centrics and Injured Gadgets and everybody else are importing parts that actually work in our products that we didn't authorize. Moreover, as explained below, consumers would continue to be able to obtain replacement AMOLED displays if remedial orders issued. Again, at what price? iFixit is Samsung's official repair partner. What is their stance on this? You should ask them. Hey, I'll ask them. I'm very curious what Kyle thinks of this document. It's linked in the description. Good question, Matthew Spriggs. That it applies to mobile phone manufacturers who offer repair services to consumers in the United States. Complainants' products can continue to be supplied to the U.S. market following the issuance of remedial orders. Samsung Display Corp has been a pioneer in AMOLED displays, and its innovation has been largely responsible for bringing this technology to the U.S. market. Consumers would thus still be able to purchase like or directly competitive articles if a remedy issued. Again, they're not mentioning the price that you'd be able to buy it at because that would then directly cut against the competition that they're claiming. And why should authorized repair be the only people who could fix your device? Why are we saying, well, since authorized repair exists, it doesn't matter that we're trying to destroy the aftermarket? Like, imagine if only one company were allowed to make brake pads for your car. Imagine if only one company were allowed to make a spark plug for your car. Imagine if only one company were allowed to make oil for your car. Like, this is just absolute maddening bullshit. Consumer demand for OLED displays would be met within a commercially reasonable period of time through authorized channels. The requested remedial orders would not adversely impact customers. This is the biggest cope of them all. As stated above, if proposed respondents' infringing products were excluded from the U.S. market, consumers would not be adversely impacted, as sufficient manufacturing capacity exists to assure demand is met for OLED displays used as replacement panels that could be and currently are supplied through authorized channels. In fact, the proposed remedial orders would protect U.S. consumers by excluding substandard products from the market. Therefore, the proposed remedial orders would not have a significant impact on U.S. consumers. There are people out there that have a $200 phone with a cracked screen that would like the ability to pay $30 to $40 for a replacement aftermarket screen rather than $250 to $300 at the manufacturer. The manufacturer is still going to charge $250 to $300, not even labor, just for the part by itself for a device that is literally only worth $200 once enough time has passed. How is it good for the consumer to no longer have choice? Because again, these manufacturers, all these people they're suing, they make it very clear. You are buying an OEM, you are buying an aftermarket. Like if I were to go to Mobile Centrics' website right now, they make it very fucking clear when what you are purchasing is aftermarket. So if I go here, OLED assembly compatible, aftermarket pro. So they make it obvious when you are buying something that is aftermarket. It's not like these companies are not going out of their way to mislead consumers into thinking they're getting an authentic, genuine part when they're not. They're being directly upfront with it. Therefore, the proposed remedial orders will not have a significant impact on U.S. customers. This is absolute bullshit right here. Like that's as the kids would say, cap. This sounds to me, and like correct me if I'm wrong, I ain't an attorney. It sounds like they're saying, don't bother bringing the public into this. Just make a decision as quickly as you can in our favor because there's really no public interest in this. When in the reality is the destruction of the independent repair marketplace, the destruction of aftermarket parts in the repair marketplace is serious. Like, the public should get to have a say here. Every single person who has ever fixed their phone with a part from any of these vendors, which, by the way, is probably 90% of people who fixed their phone in the effing US, who've tried to do it themselves, should be able to go before a judge and say, no, this adversely affects me. I fixed my phone for $40. It would have cost me $300 through the manufacturer. I'm happy with this. I like the ability to purchase brake pads of my choosing, and I like the ability to purchase a screen of my choosing for my phone. So this is proposed respondents, and again, they're going after the entire industry here, not just one. Mobile Centrics, Mobile Defenders, Injured Gadgets, Group Vertical, Electronics Universe, Fix Easy, let's see, Seg Mobile, Sourcely Plus, eTech Parts, Parts for Sales, Wholesale Gadget Parts, Captain Mobile Parts. They're literally just going for the jugular of the entire. This is literally it's 2 pages. Actually, no, it's 3 pages. Look at this. Literally 3 pages just to get to all the companies they're trying to destroy here. Non-technical description on the patented invention. The 803 patent relates to an OLED display such as that used in mobile devices, and more particularly to a novel arrangement of the picture elements, pixels used in an OLED display. An OLED display is composed of a large number of pixels that emit light based on the application of current to organic light-emitting material. An OLED display may be composed of pixels of a number of different colors, red, green, and blue. Selectively turning pixels on and off allows different colors and images to be displayed. Image data provided to the OLED display device by a device such as a mobile phone determines the pixels that are turned on and off and the intensity of output of each pixel. So they're describing their patent for a screen. So they have a patent for an AMOLED screen, and they're saying by creating an AMOLED screen that works in our device, you're infringing our patent, so your product should not be allowed to be imported into the country. The manufacture of OLED displays is complex and manufacturing yield presents challenges. In an OLED display containing multiple colors of pixels, the relative number, size, and arrangement and shape of each color of pixel may also affect characteristics of the display, such as picture quality, power consumption, and expected lifetime. Forming pixels closer to one another can increase the aperture ratio. However, forming pixels closer to one another can also decrease the reliability of the deposition process used to form organic light-emitting pixels. The 803 patent teaches novel pixel arrangement structures for an OLED display where the pixels are arranged according to novel patterns and layouts in which the pixels are formed in specified locations, formed to have differing surface areas, separated from each other by defined lengths, and / or formed to have particular shapes. So that the shapes of the pixels is what they're complaining about here. You made a screen that's compatible with our device that has pixels in a certain shape. The asserted claims of the 683 patent are valid, enforceable, and are currently in full force and effect until the expiration of the 683 patent on September 13, 2032. So if you wanted to be able to use an aftermarket screen on your phone, apparently you have to wait 10 years. 10 years. It's right around the corner, though. Mobile Centrics performs these actions, which constitute induced infringement, with knowledge of the asserted patents and knowledge that the induced acts would constitute infringement. Upon information and belief, Mobile Centrics performs these actions in order to profit from the sales of the infringing products. In other words, Mobile Centrics makes AMOLED screens and sells them to customers for money, so that the customer has a repaired product, and Mobile Centrics makes money. Mobile Centrics makes money. Customer is happy that they have a screen that didn't cost $300 for their phone. Everybody's happy except Samsung, who lost out because they actually bought a aftermarket screen at a reasonable price rather than an OEM screen, despite knowing that they infringe and offering recommendations, technical training, and technical assistance to promote and facilitate the use of accused products, including Mobile Centrics AMOLED display. Okay, so they're providing technical assistance, as in they're literally helping their customers install the screen into their fucking phones. You're angry that they're helping their customers install the screens into their phones. Isn't Samsung the company that copied the iPhone? Isn't Samsung the company that tried to make a direct copy and paste to the iPhone? That fought it for years and years saying, you can't patent that. Jesus Christ. The question is not, is it branded? The question is, are they violating the patents? The reason I'm bringing this up is because in Reddit, what will come up very often is somebody will say, why are you complaining about the inability to buy parts from the manufacturer? Why are you bitching about that? Why don't you just have somebody make your own? And, you just want to be able to buy counterfeits. And the point that I'm making and what I'm really trying to push back against is this idea that we have the ability to do that. Because they'll say, make your own parts, but then when you make your own parts, they say your parts are infringing on our patents. So you can't get the part from that manufacturer. You can't make your own. The crux of the issue here is that when you ask for right to repair, they'll say that that's a government interference in the free market, so why don't you just make your own parts? But then when you actually go and make your own parts, they'll use the government interference in the free market via the patent system to stop you from being able to import what you actually created. So, there's no winning here. It's As example, Samsung's investments in 2021 and 2022 in labor costs, which is salaries, bonuses, and health insurance, and commission and service expenses, such as for outsourced component fabrication, consulting fees, legal fees, waste disposal, and catering, which constitute investments in labor or capital pursuant to this, are set forth in the Declaration of Yunjung Park. So here, I guess what they're saying is we put a lot of money into the creation of this product, therefore we should be able to be the only ones that are bending over our customers when they need to fix their devices, which, that's an argument. We spend a lot of money to create these products. We should have the exclusive right to be able to sell replacement parts for our products. That's an argument. Okay, that's an argument. So they're saying we are making investments in producing this stuff in your country, and if we are going to make an investment in producing this stuff in your country, we want the exclusive rights to fleece your citizens. We are putting a lot of investment into producing facilities in the United States to research, create, and produce these products. So we are investing in your country. You should allow us to be the only ones who can make screens for our products, so that when our products break, the consumer has to come to us and pay a high price for a replacement screen rather than getting an aftermarket. Take away the consumer choice so that we can recoup our investment. Now, the question really does become, would Samsung have the balls to pull their investment in the United States if the United States does not enforce this? Would they actually do that? If they didn't do that, would Samsung, is Samsung really being hurt by this? Is Samsung a company that would otherwise be able to stay in business, but is close to going out of business because too many people are buying their screens from Shay or Saad, mobile-centrics or injured gadgets? And, whether that argument holds weight, I really think is down to just interest. Are you actually that interested in Samsung's business? Are you threatened by the prospect of them potentially cutting back on that investment? Do you think they actually would cut back on that investment? Samsung Electronics has spent and continues to spend significant sums on domestic facilities and equipment related to its Galaxy products. In 2021, Samsung Electronics spent $41.2 billion on the acquisition of property, plant, and equipment. Again, this is I spend a lot of money at your restaurant, do what I say thing. And this, again, at the end of the day, this doesn't come down to whether it's fair or not. It doesn't come down to whether it's the law or not. And this really usually just does come down to, do I care if this customer stops coming to my restaurant, and do I care if he tells all his friends? If this is a person that leaves a $0 tip, shows up once a week, and buys 2 dishes and has no friends, you don't really care. If the person is, Jeff Bezos or some shit, and leaves a $1,000 tip every time he shows up and brings all of his rich friends with him, then maybe it matters. This is actually I literally have this as the hold music in my store, because usually when we put people on hold, it's because they're complaining, and when they're complaining, I feel like I should play them the world's smallest violin. Here's what this is right here. Okay, Samsung has made and continues to make substantial investments. This costs money. We do research. For example, this year we spent $18.45 billion in R&D respectively. Again, fuck you. Trying to ruin the entire repair industry. Cry me a fucking river. Next. A general exclusion order is necessary to prevent circumvention of a limited exclusion order. A general exclusion is warranted when it is necessary to prevent circumvention of a limited exclusion order. Okay, so let's look this up. What is a general exclusion order versus a limited? This sounds like you're just asking customs to stop everything. An exclusion order is a type of order that the U.S. International Trade Commission is authorized to issue as a remedy in investigation under Section 337, where it determines that a violation of Section 337 has occurred. Such orders bar the named product or products from entry into the United States. There are 2 types of exclusion orders under that statute: the limited exclusion order that bars the importation of products by specific respondents determined by the Commission to be violating it, and a general exclusion order that bars the importation of all violative products regardless of source, where it is necessary to prevent circumvention of an exclusion order limited to violative products or named persons when there is a pattern of violation and it is difficult to ascertain the source of the violative products. Okay, let's go over why what Samsung is doing is going to destroy the entire fucking repair industry. They are seeking out a general exclusion order. This does not mean that mobile-centrics is not allowed to sell the X07 screen anymore. This doesn't mean that injured gadgets is not allowed to sell their aftermarket screen anymore. What they're trying to say that nobody can import this type of stuff. Now, do you think when customs sees a general exclusion order that customs is going to say, okay, this is a screen that's conforming, this is a screen that's not? Or do you think the guy that works at customs is going to say, this looks like a cell phone screen that's being imported by a company that fixes phones that's not authorized by Samsung or Apple, so we're just going to toss this in the dumpster? It's going to be the second one. This is a general exclusion order, literally says, for everything, when there is a pattern of violation, it is difficult to ascertain the source of the violative products. A general exclusion order bars importation of all violative products regardless of source when it is necessary to prevent circumvention. You can see, I'm not circumcised, by the way. So what Samsung is looking to do here, they are looking to ban everybody from importing cell phone screens. Like that, you functionally understand this is how this is going to happen. This is how this is going to be rolled out. I talked about this in my video about, on Reddit when I had to deal with my batteries being taken a while back. I've talked about it in this thread, I'll link all these down below. Customs has two ways to do their job, and I'll repeat it. Behind door number one, they can become fully educated on how to tell apart counterfeit parts from original parts. Does it use an Atmel controller or a Texas Instruments controller in the battery management system? They can figure out what type of chemical makeup are used in the oleophobic coating of the screen on the Apple originals versus the fakes, and put a solution on them that will dissolve differently. Behind door number two, customs can take a look at a vendor's list and cross-reference it with every import. If it has an Apple logo and it is not on the approved vendor's list, assume it is counterfeit and toss it in the bin. Customs, if there's a general exclusion order by the U.S. International Trade Commission, there's no way in hell that anybody is ever going to be able to import a cell phone screen to be able to repair a device ever again, except for Samsung and Apple. That's the world that we're heading to here. Not even a limited exclusion order, a general exclusion order. They're going to stop anybody from being able to import anything. There are people out there that have bought iPhones in China, and they'll take all the parts out of the iPhone, like the volume flex, the charging flex, the power button flex back in the iPhone 4 days. And they would take those parts and they would sell them to people in the United States that wanted the OEM ones. And sometimes those parts would be taken by customs because it was in counterfeit because it had an Apple logo on it. The guy at customs does not know how to tell the difference between a knockoff part with an Apple logo or an original part that was taken out of a phone with an Apple logo. What they see is this is a part with an Apple logo going to somebody that is not Apple authorized. Therefore, we assume that this is a counterfeit. That's the way the system works. The guy at customs is not like dropping some chemical solution onto the fucking oleophobic coating of the screen to try and figure out whether it is an OEM or a knockoff. And I guarantee you, when we are digging into the pixel formation shit over here, like the pattern of pixels and all this crap, look at this. Forming pixels closer to one another can decrease the reliability of the deposition process used to form organic light-emitting pixels. The 603 patent teaches novel pixel arrangement structures for an OLED where the pixels are arranged according to novel patterns and layouts. Can you honestly, in your heart of hearts, tell me that you think that the guy at customs is qualified to be able to figure out what the pixel formation is on the screen that somebody is importing? There's no way in hell that is going to happen. Samsung is saying that there is so much infringement that we want a general order excluding anybody from being able to import these screens in general. Nobody at customs is going to be able to tell what the pixel formation configuration is on an AMOLED display coming into the country. That's just like no way in hell that they can do that. So the only way that this will be enforced is by just blocking everything. If they win, if Samsung gets what they want, they will get a complete block on everything. At least some proposed respondents appear to be taking steps to conceal their infringing activity. For example, some of the proposed respondents canceled orders either without explanation or with seemingly implausible explanations, such as statements that they were unable to verify the method of payment, even though successful payments were made to the same proposed respondents for other orders using the same method of payment. Okay, so what they're saying here, this is pretty much the argument that mobile-centrics or injured gadgets, whoever, they saw that some weird they saw that some law firm was buying screens with next-day shipping, and they said, this seems fishy, we're canceling your order because you're probably trying to fuck with us. And honestly, I don't blame them for doing so. Why would I help you put together a case against me? Like, really, honestly, they're not stupid. They see, okay, this law firm just bought a product from us with next-day shipping. They Google the law firm and they see that that law firm has done a bunch of cases like this. They know that this law firm is going to try to fuck them. That's not because they know they're infringing. This has nothing to do with believing you're infringing on a patent. This has to do with the fact that the guy at Mobile-Centrics or Injured Gadgets likely does not have the several $1 billion to spend litigating this that Samsung does. Samsung has more money than Mobile-Centrics. Samsung has more money than eTech Parts. Samsung has more money than Injured Gadgets. And they are more than happy, even if they were to lose the case, to completely and utterly bury these companies. That doesn't mean that you're infringing. When I was stupid enough, when I was fucking dumb enough to settle with New York State because they didn't understand their own fucking laws because that city is run by fucking imbeciles, that wasn't because I thought I did something wrong. That is because it would have cost me $15,000 if I lost, because the attorney said that his fees to fight this start at $7,500 and they asked for a settlement of like $500. That doesn't mean I think I'm wrong. That means that I know the deck is stacked against me. That doesn't mean that they think that they're wrong. They're canceling these orders because they do not want to be fucked with and bullied by a cunt like Samsung. Finally, the ease with which companies can enter the market to import or sell after importation the accused products and the demand for the accused products as indicated by the number of companies selling these products makes circumvention more likely in the absence of a general exclusion order. By the way, this cuts against what they said in the very beginning. Remember in the very beginning where they said that there is not a sincere public, there is a public interest in getting rid of these products. There is no issue with regards to competition by getting rid of these products. But there's enough public interest in them that there's a demand for it for dozens of companies to be selling these products. There's no public interest in how competition would be negatively affected if these products are no longer available. But there is enough demand for them that there's a demand for over a dozen companies to be making them. This cuts against what they were saying in the very beginning of the document. Requested relief. Issue a permanent general exclusion order pursuant to Section 337 of the Tariff Act of 1930, excluding from entry into the United States certain active matrix, organic light emitting display diode panels and modules used as replacement displays for mobile devices and components thereof that are imported, sold for importation, or sold after importation that infringe on one or more claims of the asserted patents, or, in the alternative, issue permanent limited exclusion orders specifically directed to each named proposed respondent and its subsidiaries, predecessors, affiliates, agents, successors, and assigns excluding from entry into the United States certain active ammo. Okay, this is just a bunch of copy pasta shit. You already got the idea here, and that's that. And then it's signed by a bunch of lawyers. Gross. Ew. So this is pretty much signed by a bunch of lawyers at Covington and Burling LLP in Washington, D.C., place where you find all of your favorite lawyers. And that's that. So the absolute TLDR of this, let me just to wrap this up, Samsung is looking for a general exclusion order, which is defined as the ability to exclude just about anybody from being able to import this. A general exclusion order bars the importation of all violative products regardless of source. Now, if we take a look at how this is going to be enforced, and you take a look at the patent that they are talking about here, they're talking about their patent being violated when it comes to the shapes of the pixel formations in the AMO LED screen. And to be clear, I am not trying to insult customs when I say this. Do you think that customs has the ability to tell whether or not a patent for an AMOLED screen is being broken on a particular screen based on the pixel arrangement structure to improve the aperture ratio of the display? Or do you think they're just going to say, this looks like a phone screen for a Samsung phone or an iPhone, no screen for you? Which do you think is going to happen with the general exclusion order? Again, many of us in this industry have tried to import used parts simply because that part has an Apple logo on. It could be used. It could be an original part. It will still be confiscated. People have imported parts that were taken out of original phones that were bought in China. They are considered to be counterfeit because customs cannot tell the difference between a counterfeit part and an original part that was just ripped out of an iPhone that was purchased in the store. That is, and honestly, at the end of the day, I cannot blame that customs agent. You cannot be an expert in everything. These people are not putting chemicals on the phone screen to figure out if the oleophobic coating has the same chemical reaction as an original Samsung to figure out. That's not what they're doing. What this is going to result in, if Samsung gets what they want, is every one of these companies listed in the beginning of this order, and just about every company in the United States, will not be able to import these parts. When you take a look at the number of companies that they are including in their complaint, it is the entire mobile industry. Even Apple's not doing this. Even Apple is not trying to go after people that are labeling their parts as aftermarket. Again, these parts are all labeled as aftermarket, and sometimes they even label them as involuntarily celibate. But in all seriousness, this says aftermarket. They're not trying to pretend that this part is an OEM iPhone screen or an OEM Samsung screen. They're saying it's aftermarket. And what they're saying is these parts violate our patents as a result of it being really difficult to tell which ones are, which ones don't, who's importing ones that do, who's importing ones that don't. Let's just exclude everything. What this will do, 100%, is destroy the independent repair industry. Now, even if you don't like the idea of an aftermarket part existing, Does that mean that that choice shouldn't exist for anybody else? Just because you would not want to put aftermarket brake pads in your Ford F-150, does that mean that everybody should have to go to the dealer to have their F-150 brakes replaced just because you don't like the fact that somebody else can make brake pads? Do you think that the only source for a bulb for your car, for a light, a headlamp, a spark plug, oil, should be the dealer? Because that's the world we are going to live in. We're going to live in a world that doesn't have consumer choice if Samsung gets their way. Samsung says in the beginning of this document that there's not really a great public, this is not going to harm competition anyway. Don't worry about it because we're able to make screens for our products. Yes, you are, at a price that often exceeds the price of the actual phone that the customer is looking to fix. This is going to destroy the repair market in more ways than one, even if you don't like aftermarket parts. How are they going to know if what I'm importing is OEM? What if I'm importing a box of OEM used parts from phones that are dead? Again, the customs guy has no ability to tell whether or not the screen that I am importing is infringing. Because again, I'm not trying to insult the customs guy. The customs guy is not going to be able to tell whether the pixel arrangement in the AMOLED screen is violating a patent or not, because he probably doesn't have 10 years of college and engineering experience in AMOLED design. He's just going to decline the importation of everything, which is the death knell of our industry. I'm going to say I'm going to say this today, and I'm going to stand behind it. I think Samsung is worse than Apple. Samsung is worse than Apple. Even Apple hasn't done this shit. Apple has not sought a general exclusionary order to actually bar us from being able to import parts for our entire industry. This had to have cost millions of dollars. You understand this. Like, to get this law firm to write this, to get this law firm to spend time investigating the factories in these other countries, buying parts from every single one of these vendors, to write a 160-page document, like, Samsung had to have spent at least $1 million on this. You understand this. There's no way this, like, can you imagine a world in which this firm of attorneys did this work for like $40,000 or $80,000? I cannot imagine that world. This likely cost Samsung, I'm just guessing here, this likely cost Samsung at least $1 million. They're throwing a lot of money into this. They want to see the independent repair industry destroyed, in my opinion. And if people don't push back against it, that might just happen. And the thing is, they know that what they're doing is wrong. Unauthorized disclosure of such information could cause substantial harm to the competitive position of complainant, and the disclosure of this could impair the Commission's ability to obtain information necessary to perform its function. We therefore respect that the Commission afford confidential treatment to these exhibits, which, again, by the way, I'm just going to say it right here. Link is down below. Link in the description to this whole document down below. Make sure nobody forgets that Samsung tried to do this. By all means, take clips of this video, share it on your channel, take this document, read it through, explain it on your own YouTube channel, give it to whoever you want. As many people as possible should know that Samsung is just trying as hard as they can to destroy the entire independent repair marketplace. Again, unauthorized disclosure of such information could cause substantial harm to the competitive position of complainant. Yes, it could. Because if everybody knows that Samsung is actively working to try to destroy the independent repair market, that's not a good look. People don't like buying stuff from people who are pieces of shit, or from companies that act like pieces of shit. This is acting like a piece of shit, in my opinion. What do you think? Let me know in the comments in the description down below. I'm going to try to edit this into a shorter video because I know there's no way in hell that anybody's going to actually take the time to watch a video that's an hour and 40 minutes long, and I don't really blame them. But you tell me what you think. You tell me what you think. That's it for today. And as always, I hope you learned something.